All right, where are we? We are in the South Sands 9-hole cup. I tried to record last week, and every time I went to record, stuff came up, and I did play some of it, and then I totally forgot that there was a weekend round and missed the whole deal. What were you doing? South Sands. Where are we? Where are we this week? Sorry about that, Richard. Waterfield Sands. I barely remember these. Kind of. I kind of remember them. Hole number one. What have we got here? So in one-on-one play, you can hit it down into here, and you've got a pretty straight-up shot to get to it. You can bring out a bigger ball and try and come over into this area and try and bring it up. Now, distance-wise, if we draw an arc here, you're probably out in this area, same distance. The one thing I like, I remember playing this hole when it first came out, and Dunner and I were out practicing, and the thing I liked about this side is that it's fairly flat. Pretty much on the same level, not quite. But over here, you're definitely down here shooting up to the hole. We'll see. I think this is probably, unless you want to bring out a big ball and get over here, seems like I had a little bit of success over in this area, but that's not to say that you couldn't work this shot out. And it seemed to me, too, that there might have been the opportunity for a rough bump if you were over here. We'll see. We'll see. I have limited memory banks about this hole. Limited. I think I'm going to play with my number 5 bag. My number 5. We'll switch to that one. And we'll see what a Titan does. We'll see what we can get done with a Titan. The king of balls. Now, if there is a rough bump on that second shot, I will need a Goliath instead of a Grizzly, I think. Maybe I need that bag. Maybe. Let's go practice. Let's go see. We got nothing to lose except for a practice token and a Titan. The king of balls. Here we go. Maybe. Thank you, John. Let's see what kind of deal we got here on the drive. John goes first. Well, it looks like if you're going over to the right, that one fairway I pointed out is not the one. And there is a rough bump here. I thought I remembered a rough bump. I played, I think it was maybe in Tour 9. See, I mean, if we draw an arc here out to the spot that we can get to out in here, and we draw that arc trying to get up into this range, it'll be it's possible to get up there, especially if we brought out a bigger ball or if we had a topspin boost ball where we could get around the bend and try and get up into that area. But I think most people are probably just going to hit it straight forward. I'm going to just take a shot and not worry too much about doing any overpower. Just see what a max shot will do as far as what kind of distance we can get out there. This might not be a bad hole to bring out a big topper on. You got a big ass fairway in front with no overpower. Where we end up, about the same as my opponent. Wood range. I do remember playing over to the right when this hole first came out, and we were really pounding it out there. And you can overshoot that where you end up blowing through the fairway and end up on the rough on the backside. I think you could easily recover out there if you had a Nirvana, but there was a shot from over there. And this is definitely uphill. Definitely. We'll add a little on. Still trying to wake up. I'm on my first cup of coffee. Come on. Goliath. Right at max Goliath. .8 divided by 1.8. 2.53 rings. There's 2.5. I'm going to do one extra, so I'm going to do 2.6. Hitting it perfect. We get a good read on it there. .1,000 miles an hour. That was an overpull. I have to go back and look at where that first bounce was. Freeze frame it. That's one of the benefits. It's so important if you play this game is to record your own video. That way you can go back. It's easy to, you can go back and you can, especially if you do the wind ring method and you're adjusting the ball, because you can go back and you can reverse engineer it. And you can see what you did and you can make adjustments. You can see where the ball is hitting to see if the wind is, like sometimes it's not so much you need to add on wind, you need to set it up and then you need to put a little back, you need to set a standards thing, like set a quarter ring, put a quarter ring back on it or a half ring back on it. Or take out an extra half ring in order for it to hit the spot you're looking for. That's one way to play it. I think that is a dangerous ass way there when you're playing the wind today. The rough bump was like right in here and the wind was blowing in this direction, so I was able to move over the rough. If I made a bad choice and I hit great to the left or the right, there's still a good chance I'm going to hit the rough. But if we've got a headwind or a tailwind with that sand there in that narrow little rough area, you're really going to want to know how you need to chase this if you got a headwind or a tailwind, or if you're on those days. The safe way obviously is to just hit over here on the fairway and bring the ball to the cup. That's the safe way. Now ball wise there, you can see my opponent brought a Marlin, and so they were using their sniper. If I'd have hit it if I hadn't gone quite as far, like if we had a headwind day and I didn't put on any overpower and I didn't go quite as far in there, I would have been right at the spot where I was at here, where I would have been in between clubs. And so really kind of watching where you're hitting out here. The best way to do this is to pull back a little bit from the red line. So I think with a 3-power ball, is it plus 16, somewhere plus 12, somewhere in that neighborhood, and pulling back to maybe like the plus 6 mark and leaving yourself a little bit of room in front. So if we've got a headwind day, you can adjust that wind out and you still don't have to do any overpower. That'll get you a consistent spot down here. And then you can pick the ball. Like if you really wanted to hit that with your sniper, bringing out a katana so that you're not hitting it as far, but you're in minimum club when you're hitting it. Stuff we can do. We have some choices there. That's still not going to be, that par 4 is not, I suppose if we brought out a 5-power ball and we had like an APOC where we've got some curl with some topspin, we might be able to come over into this area and really bring the ball around to get it out into this field. As far as distance wise though, we're still on that same arc, so this distance is going to be the same as this distance. But this is flat. The other thing about it is the way this green is set up and where the pin's at, this area from over here, you're going to be able to ride that back. The green is kind of where there's like a ridge right in here and you're going up the hill coming to the cup. So if you're coming at it from this way, you've got to contend with that. Whereas if you're coming at it from this way, you can just stay on this flat upper plateau of the green and kind of run the ball at it. It might be worth bringing out a bigger ball to get over there. And in these 9-hole cups, I mean, any advantage you can get, it might be worth it. Let's go look at it. Let's see what I have here. Let's go back to hole number 1. Let's see what I got for ball. One is something with some topspin boost. Do we get a free one? I don't think we do. I only have a couple of those topspin boost balls there. Don't really want to waste them just on a practice. That's the thing is, if you're buying balls and you're doing it, you have to do that. You have to come out and practice with the ball you're going to use in the tournament so that you can make adjustments and you can see where you're ending up and you can work from that spot. So that's why if you're working up the scale, you really have to buy packs so that you can practice. I don't know that I have any that I want to waste, so I'm just going to let's just use a Berserker. Let's practice it. Let's practice it again, and we'll go at it from the left hand, or from the right hand side. We'll see what kind of distance we could get out there. And I'm going to switch bags from here because we're not doing the rough bump, and I'm going to put in my number 5 bag, so if I do get into my long iron range, I'm using my Grizzly. Daffy Duck. Daffy da. This way you'll get to see both because my opponent's going on the right. That's good. I don't know with a 3-power ball if you could run out of fairway up there. I mean, there's a lot of fairway left in front. Let's switch to the number 5 bag. The number 5. Now, you'd have to use your extra mile. And that's just not going to get me. I mean, distance-wise, it's just not going to cut it. I'm going to do 2 rings. That's 2.6. I'm going to do 2.5. Can't put too much curl on it. Hitting it perfect. I lost a lot of distance hitting that rough there. That might not be. Let's see where my opponent is. They must be right on the. I would have liked to have seen where their minimum red line was. What was that for a wind adjustment? The wind's blowing towards them and they moved it back. They must have, I have no freaking clue how people do wind adjustments when they don't do the wind ring method. We'll see what this looks like. We'll see where we're at. Sniper. Minimum sniper. See how it's flat up here and we don't have to contend with that hill? And it does break a little right at the very end. 3.1 divided by 1.2. 2.84. I'm going to add 10% on. 2.84. There's 2. There's 2.9. Hitting it perfect. See if we can get close. Ooh! Slight overpull. Just a slight overpull. If I hadn't put the 10% on there, that would have been 258 versus 284. That might have been it. Just a straight up shot from over there. Maybe a little micro adjustment. I think getting over into that area, I hit the rough and that lost me some distance. But you can see how the approach, and I had to bring out a 5-power ball in order to do it. So let's go back and look at the image there. So where I was at, right in this area, coming at it, you could see how the look's different on this side where you're on the upper part of the plateau for the green as opposed to hitting over here. I was my opponent must have been at about mid-club. They must have had some room because they were closer distance to the cup than me. But there is a shot out here. Now, if you take a 3-power ball and you're not trying to get around the bend, you're just trying to get out into this area so that you could bring out it with a sniper, you're going to have that same upper plateau look at the cup. And that might be a little bit better. It might be. Maybe. Hole number 2. What is hole number 2? Now, there was definitely a rough bump on this one, and it seemed to me like it was 10%. But it might have been like Tommy's saying 30. Well, let's go see. It didn't seem to me that it was that much, but maybe it is. Maybe it is. Let's go look at it. Reconnecting you. Yeah. All right, let's switch up balls here because I'm not sure what ball we'll need. So we'll start off with, I think we can get it done with a nav. We'll try a nav and see if we need to up it. It's a distance deal. It'll be distance no matter what. We'll see if we can do it with the Grizzly, and if not, I'll switch it up to my bag number 4, which has a Goliath in it. Maybe. Practice. Here we go. Getting out on the course. 14, 16, 23. I'm saying those numbers for Dale Appleby. He was telling me, he was complaining that I say too many numbers, and if you ride the little bus, aka you use an Apple device and you're using the grid, if somebody's saying numbers out loud, it screws the game up. Like restarts the game or closes it down or does something. I have no idea because I don't use an Apple device. We'll see. Seemed like there was just a straight up rough bump shot here. There's a bunch of things you can do. I was playing this in Tour 9 is what the deal was, and in Tour 9 you're playing it with you can play this with you're right on the if you're using a lower power ball, you're right on the red line, and there is a backboard here that you can use, and you can bring the ball back down on the backboard. The thing I don't like about this hole in 1-on-1 is that backboard's so steep and it funnels everything down towards the cup, is that it's kind of a racetracky type hole. It's relatively easy to get close. Minimum club with a 1-power ball. We definitely need more side spin than that. So if you wanted to do that rough bump right there, you definitely need to use more side spin. Definitely. And you can see here there is a let's see if I have enough backspin to engage it. There are several different ways that you can come at that. More side spin would be better there. Does that feel like it's downhill? It does feel a little downhill. We'll take that. We'll use Tommy's number and see how that works for us. 30% seems like a lot. A lot. Max Club. .6 divided by 0.9, 5.2 rings. There's 5, 2. Hitting it perfect. We'll see if I over or under or what I pulled. I didn't get close enough to it. Is that an over pull? Might be a slight over pull. I thought it would roll out a little bit more than it did, but evidently that's wrong. There are several ways to go there. If you had a low wind ball with more side spin, you could do that rough bump. And that rough bump in here, trying to get at it. Wondering if you could go in here and do a rough bump with your Goliath, and because it's got a longer tail, and if you could actually get a little bit more look at the. We have several options here. I'm assuming most people are just going to go at the hold like I did and not use those. We'll have to see how it goes as the week goes on. I'm not really interested in. I don't have a lot of low wind, bigger than 2 side spin balls. Where my red line was at, it would really be nice to use a 0 power ball with like 5 side spin, Santa ball or something like that. All right, hole number 3. What do we have? I see obviously people are going to get eagles on hole number 1, and obviously people are going to get hole-in-ones on hole number 2, but I don't see either one of those holes as being like, if you don't get it, you're screwed. This hole is rough, especially from the pro tees. The deal is that this drive shot coming in here is, this terrain is like this, and you're hitting on a hillside here, and the ball's wanting to go to the right, but you need the ball to go to the left to get into this fairway. You can try and blast it to get it through this little rough patch right here and end up out in this area so that you have a straighter up shot at it. From the pro tees, this is definitely a hole that you either need to bring a bigger ball, or you need to bring out, you need to make sure you have your big dog or Cataclysm, or you need to do both. Because if you're in this area right here, especially on headwind days, it's a chore to get, like, you may end up having to hit it from this side, which means you're going to need a lot of topspin, which is big dog, cat, in order to get it up to the green so that you can get your eagle and move along. There's going to be a lot of people that'll fail on this hole because this drive shot is not necessarily the most conducive. If you're finding yourself almost every time in the rough or in the sand, I suppose in that situation, it's always worth going for it to try and get out here. Because at least on the days that you clear, you are in the clear. You got a pretty good shot from over here. You've shortened that distance up. You can see, like, distance-wise, anywhere in here, you're going to shorten the distance up if you can get over to the other side. And you can end up getting your bounces so that you can roll off the back and end up over here, which is really bad. We'll see what it looks like out there. We'll go look at it first. Let's go look. I think on the drive, a bigger side spin ball is probably, if you're going to bring out a 3 side spin ball, this might be a time to pop out one of your Kingmakers just for it could help you on the drive and the second shot depending on where you end up. depending on the level of your clubs. I saw the thing where they said that you were going to be able to buy clubs or buy the club cards that you needed to upgrade clubs, and I've never seen it. I saw the thing where they announced it, but I've never seen it. So from the rookie tees, and we can get over to that side, that makes it much easier. When you're on the pro tees and you're having to hit from here, and then your first bounce is here, and then you're trying to bring it over to this fairway, this area here is rough because, like I said, everything's wanting to go to the right, and you need the ball to go to the left, and it can be very difficult. Perfect. And my opponent, I think, is going to blast right through. Excellent. Excellent. That's where you want to be. This is really the side you want to be on from the rookie tees. From the pro tees, you're going to be on that little island, and it is rough to get up. We'll use it. We'll use it, Titan. The king. The king of balls. 4. There's 3-9. There's a little bit extra. I'm just going to hit it just to see if I could get through without putting anything special on it. You can see those bounce on there. Sometimes you're in a spot like that and you're like, man, if I put on some extra power, I would have made it. And you put on extra power and then it hits in the second bounce hits in the rough, and then you just get stuck in the rough. You would have been better off not putting the overpower on there. You really got to pay attention. People a lot of times are looking, they see themselves here and they're looking at where the ball's ending up, and they're not paying attention to all the shit that's in the middle. And your first bounce on the ground is really important, because it doesn't matter what you think you're going to get out here. If you overpower it and your first bounce is in the rough, this shit's not going to work out. And you can see my opponent right now kind of struggling with a 2-power ball. This is what I'm saying, that you got to respect this par 5. It is a long par 5, especially from the pro tees. My opponent's got some distance on where you would end up if you hit on that island, and they're using a 2-power ball. So even with a 3-power ball from that island, it can be tough if you don't have the right club. I'm just going to take it straight up wherever I'm at my club. And I don't even have the distance. Definitely, you can see I don't even have the distance. I would need to make sure that I have the right club, and two. Two. Max curl. Whew, that was close. Close. That was definitely an overpull. And it is an uphill shot, so theoretically, I should have taken some wind off of it. But I gave myself 2 full rings of separation there, and I was a quarter of a ring off, and that was close. Close. We'll dunk it from here. We'll see if we can dunk it. Isn't it perfect? Didn't quite pull it enough. All right. That hole right there, my big mistake was not bringing out a big dog or a cataclysm. I think I would have been able to get over and just be able to run over at it. And even if I hadn't been able to, from this side right here, the big dog and the cataclysms got more topspin, I could have got closer. So when you're in those situations, I'm out in this area, trying to hit, well, I was probably out in here, trying to hit to that, setting up over here, and then thinking about how my curl can make up the distance to catch me over there. It would be a lot nicer to just be able to get on this side and go straight at the cup. So maybe a couple things. Number one, bringing out a bigger ball. This area getting through it is not always going to be consistent. So there may be times where you get caught, where you do get through, or you're just right here on the other side. And so you've lost a little bit of distance as if you were out here. So bringing out maybe a 4-power ball and a bigger club, making sure you can hedge your bets. This is one of those holes that you may bring out a bigger ball in order to make sure that you can get into the area that you want, so that you can get up here and get your eagle. Because if we look through the bracket, this par 5 right here is going to be a par 5 that a lot of people are going to fail on. I mean, it's not going to be like 80% of the people in the bracket, but there's going to be a pretty sizable percentage of the people that are going to fail on this hole at least once in the round. And if you can pick up a shot, if the only difference between you being able to secure a pretty easy eagle by bringing out a power 4 ball and a cataclysm or a big dog, it might be worth it. It might be worth it. All right, what do we got? What is our next hole? What is hole number 4? What do we have in store? This hole right here, it does seem like there was a rough bump as well. Like we could do a rough bump out in this area right here and we could bring it around, but we definitely had to have a Goliath. And I'm pretty sure we had to have a Katana as well. Just because of the spin, the side spin. Let's make sure we got bag number 4 picked. Practice, practice, practice. From the rookie tees, maybe, if we can get an opponent. If we can get an opponent. It's a big if. Hello. Hello. Joe Mama. I go first. Maybe there wasn't. No, that sand's in the way. We're right at that transitional red line. If we wanted to get into that spot right there, we'd have to bring out a 3-power ball, make sure we have a little bit of room on headwind days. Yeah, I know what the ball does. Gives us a little bit of breathing room. You're almost using this hillside to do basically a rough bump in the fairway. And you can see how if you're off just a little, or if you don't make your wind adjustment, your final result is going to be brutal. Brutal. I'm at the +3 mark right there. Blue ring is right off the sand. Let's see what my opponent does. They got a sniper and a 3-power ball. They're right at the red line. They have no room behind them. The one thing about where they're at down there on the flat is they're getting a little bit better read. Might be better to bring out a lower power ball. Don't go in. Don't go in. We'll take this straight up and see where we're at. I'm not going to do anything to it. Let's bring out a navigator. Let's switch that up to a sniper. See how much backspin. Do I even have enough if I was there? Three, 2. I'm definitely downhill. There's 1, 2, 3, 2. Hitting it perfect. I can't believe I had any time left on the clock. Right at it. Right at it. Now that is a shot, if you wanted to take that shot, that why practicing is important and why recording your own video is important. Yes, you can go back and watch the replays. The replays are much better today than they used to be in the past, but being able to record your own video so that you can pause it and look back and go back 3 frames and you have total control over it. And right there, writing down like how much spin I put on that ball, because I have no freaking clue. I was just setting it up in the moment. So I have no idea how I did that shot. I'm going back and looking at the wind adjustment and seeing if I got all that right and where I was at as far as ring set, so that you can go put on your backspin, set your ring set up so that you're in the right spot, because you can see with that, the way that it's coming in there, you move just a little forward or you move just a little back and it really changes where you end up on the other side. I was trying to get down here in the flat. I was trying to hit off of the fringe so that I had usually the fringe gives you a pretty decent bounce. Runs a little bit truer. Definitely record your own video. Definitely. Kmart sucks. All right. Hole number 5. All right, this is another one of those holes. Do not fall in the trap. This area out here is for spectators. This fairway out here is spectators. When you come onto this hole, this area out here is nothing but spectators. We're expected to either do one of 2 things: hit to the end and then try and get over to the cup, or hit over to the island. Now, if you hit I hit over here, I would, once again, this was in tour 9 and I was playing, and I hit over to the left just to see, if there was, because a lot of times your opponent may end up in the water or in a really bad spot. If you end up on this side of this island where you're on the hillside, you came in, you bounced in, then it just rolled back and you end up over here, you can't get over the top of this to get a run. You got to go around. And it is difficult to try and bounce off of this island at that angle and try and get, even from here, if you don't bring the right stuff and you're trying to bring it around this way to get, your angles are like this. You're out in this area, or you're here and you're looking in this direction, and then to try and cut this angle to bring it back, I mean, that's a lot. You're asking a lot. A lot. This is better served by coming out here and trying to put on some backspin, because as soon as the backspin doesn't take effect until the ball hits the ground. So if you're trying to bring the ball to the left and you've got backspin and left-hand side spin on, the side spin and the backspin don't take effect until it hits the ground. So as soon as it hits the ground, the backspin kicks in and it hammers that left-hand side spin and really jerks the ball to the left. It is difficult to get off of this island to get over to the green. It's possible, but it's not, it's not something you may get done every time you try it. If you're on the front side over here, or you're right here in the front, you can recover. But that island blows. And just hitting out into here and coming at it, this is a long shot. I think you're still with a wood when you're out here. We'll see what it looks like. The island is very tricky, but do not be confused. If you hit the ball over here, number 1, you are in big ass trouble, because I think your red line's right in here when you're trying to get over to the island. So I mean, if we draw an arc from the tee shot, you're looking at out here. I think getting over to the other side is maybe possible if you brought out a really big ball. But if you're just trying to hit out into this area and try and get on, I'm not sure that's the way to roll. I'm not sure it is. Especially from the pro tees. All right. We'll take my number 5 bag. And let's take a Let's take a Titan, the king of balls. Here we go. If I don't make the island, I'm going to hit it back up onto the island so that we can at least look at that shot. Depending on, you're not going to have a shit ton of control getting onto that island. Getting onto the island is the goal, and then you have to deal with wherever you're at on the island. And if you roll off the island, you want to roll off on the front side or on the green side. You do not want to roll off on the tee box side. You can see how much of it, and I remember taking that shot with Denner, and we did achieve the goal of getting over to that island, getting over several times, but doing this kind of rough bump, you can see all of the shit that can go wrong on this shot. Where's my second bounce? 3.8. 3.8 divided by 1.3 is 2.92 rings. I'm going to do 3. Why not? And we'll just take it. Hitting it perfect. You can see going against the headwind, you're definitely going to have to make an adjustment. Now, from where I'm at right there, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I may take this shot just to show you how difficult this shot is. It is difficult to try and get over, to try and get around the bend. You almost need to set this up. You need to practice this to do a max overpower hook. Or a max hook. Maybe not overpower, but a hook. It's super shit where I'm at. You can't get a shot to the green. My opponent will find out exactly what I'm talking about because they're in the same spot. Same spot. If you're in this area, you're right. You can't hit over the island. Shit, I don't even know if I can hit up onto the island. Can I hit up onto the island? I can't even hit onto the island. So you're trying to come over here and you're trying to swing that. You're going to need all of the topspin to get over. You see where my second bounce is? My second bounce is dead center sand. So this is what I was saying. You almost need to do a max overpower hook, or you're out in this area. Went a little too far. went a little too far. My opponent does have a better spot. No, they're still red. Oh, maybe that's... No, they got a shot. We know what this will look like, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit over to the island. I'm going to hit back to where I really wanted to hit. This is where I wanted to be, somewhere out in this area. We'll just lay it up out there. We'll do a drop. Now we can see what the shot would look like if we actually made the island. Now, you would think that my opponent would go, okay, I can do this shot, but do I really want to practice this shot in practice, or am I playing one-on-one, or am I practicing for the tournament? Because, like, we know what a Sahara shot looks like, but what we really want to know is if we would have ended up where we wanted on the island, what's that shot look like? I'm just constantly amazed that people are in practice, but they're not actually out here in practice. They're treating it just like one-on-one. Then again, it might be a replay. Okay, I'm at minimum club. And I'm right in that spot where if I had it, I don't think I have enough topspin with this club to get me there. I need to be right. I need to be a little bit further forward. Three, two. I'm just going to do a max adjustment. Hitting it perfect. Perfecto. Needed to pull a little more. Didn't pull it enough. Which is funny because that's definitely an uphill shot. The game is not consistent. Anytime that stuff is all bullshit. Yes, you can make adjustments for it, and yes, you can figure out what adjustments you need to make on holes by playing the holes a lot and practicing. And there's a bunch of advanced skills. If you go up the scale, if you're playing in the higher winds and you're playing in Masters, there's a bunch of advanced skills that are up there, but the deal is that the game itself is not consistent. I don't know of a single hole where we're playing a downhill shot that we take wind off, but I know a bunch of shots that are uphill that we're adding wind on. Hole number, what hole are we on? What hole are we on? We're on hole number 6. Hole number 6. All right. I think this is another one of those ones where we're hitting down in here and there's spectators standing out in this area, and you start hitting towards them, they're going to get pissed at you. Hitting down into this area as far as you can and then going straight at the cup. I'm not sure if there was a rough bump that was here. We'll bring my... Whoa. Let me switch that bag up. Or let me add another bag. I'll change up one. I'll change this one and we'll go with a APOC and a Sniper and a Goliath, just in case. I think that bag right there might be better than that one. I'm going to try this. Let's see what the ball situation is here. I'm going to play this with a Kingmaker just so that on the second shot I've got all my options available to me. Not that I necessarily think you need to bring out a Kingmaker, but just so that when we get to the shot to the cup, we know what our options are. See if I can get another opponent that doesn't really want to practice. If you're out there practicing, you paid a practice token and you make a mistake, make sure from where you're at that you could recover. That's the important information. And then go back to your regular game plan. Hit to where you were trying to hit so that you can practice the shot that you really wanted to practice. Instead of just going, hey, this is like one-on-one, man. I got to just play it out because they might beat me. It's practice. This doesn't count. Perfect. Well, that was almost too far, but that was perfect. I wasn't paying attention, so I have no idea what they did. I think let's do 5 topspin. Let's do 6 topspin. Well, I'm going to pull back to the +2. Let's do 3.5 at the +2. I'm going to do 2.5 rings. It's 1.3 per ring, so that'd be 2.6 plus 7. That'd be 3.3. What I didn't like about my opponents is they were rolling that crest that's right here, and then you got the rough on the other side, and they were on the downhill slide going towards the rough. I really don't want to involve that slope. I'd rather end up right before you get to it, because if you hit on one of those days, especially if you got a pure tailwind where it carries it just a little bit farther, you could easily find yourself overshooting that. And I would rather be a little bit short of the max, but in a fairly consistent area. That gave me lots of room for maneuver. Once again, we'll take the shot straight up just to see where it puts us. Goliath. There's Max. Nins back there. We do have a rough bump we can do here. .3 divided by 1.8 is 1.27 rings. If I do just a max shot. There's 1.25. There's my 2.7. Oh! Would have been closer, for sure. Would have been closer. At least it missed on the right, and I hit it to the right, so that's a good sign. I'm not sure how much topspin I put on there. You might be able to get that done with your Grizzly. And you'd be a little bit truer towards max with a 3-power ball. If you wanted to bring out your Goliath, I think you could still hit the same distance I hit on the drive, and you want to leave yourself a little bit of room against your red line so that on a headwind day you have the ability to work that wind out. In the hole. In the hole. I would have liked to have hit that one perfect. I would have liked to have seen where that went. I think it would have missed. But it would have been close. Closer. Hole number 7. Hole number 7. All right. I believe there was a rough bump on this one as well. And this is another one of those holes that's got, this is sloped down and this rough bump is sloped up, and it's difficult. In one-on-one play from the pro tees, there is a pocket you can get down in here where you're in between clubs, and I was playing with a Guardian, and you can stick it up in there. Let's go look at it. Let's go look at it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to bring out a katana. But I do think that Goliath might be the right club. And I know that this hole, we have to add some on. And I think it's definitely one of those holes where if you have a headwind, if you're playing from the pro tees and you got a headwind, you're probably going to have to make a bigger adjustment than if you're working in tailwind. Ah, sniper. Sniper. Question is whether it will roll down. Now it might be a matter of not having enough spin there to get me around so that I can put when I put my topspin on it, it's pushing it straight out. But if I had a 4-side bend or a 5-side bend ball, I might be able to bring myself around to that area. You can see right here in the center, in this spot, is where I really want to hit, because I like hitting. I'm not a big fan of hitting off of these hillsides, because if you hit a little low, your ball is going to or if you hit a little high, and it can really throw your shot off. But if you're hitting right down here on the flat, where it comes, you got this bowl and you're trying to hit right down here on the flat spot, you'll get a little bit truer. And if you hit it great to the left or the right, it'll still go pretty much in the direction that you want. All right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. There's max. There's min. So there's mid. True mid. I'm going to do 3, 4. .4 rings, and it is way downhill. There's 3, 4. Perfect. Definitely didn't pull it enough. And from where I was at in mid, I could have brought out a 1-power ball. A katana would work really well there, because you may need access to the side spin depending on where you're at. I'll have to go back and watch the video, see how much side spin I put it on right there. Because once again, I'm just playing in the moment for the shot, not really paying attention to any of the stuff, just playing the shot at the moment. All right, hole number 8. Here we go. All right. It seemed to me, I can tell you, it seems to me that you can try and bounce off the island and try and get some run forward and get up in here. In one-on-one play from the pro tees, I was always trying to play to get up into this area right here, but if you end up getting caught up here, you may struggle to just get on the green and recover. That you really need to get like up in here in order to be able to recover pretty fairly. So you do not want to recover, you do not want to fail behind this line. But from the rookie tees, we might be able to get up into this area. If I remember correctly, we were trying a really long rough bump here. If you got into the right spot out in this area, that there was a really long rough bump that you could do if you had a Goliath. We'll go look at it. We'll go look, because I just like looking at it and trying to remember. It seems like getting out into this area gives you a pretty straight up shot at it. In pro, you'd have to bring out a bigger ball, but I think in rookie, we might be able to get it done with just a Titan. The King. I'm going to bring that bag, because I seem to remember that we were trying a rough bump here, but I don't know that was what we were actually. If you got into the absolute perfect spot, I don't think it was the best. The best way to go. Waterfield Sands, hole number 8. Now I don't see any. There's a couple of the par 3s that we can really kind of work on to try and get hole in one, but the par 4s and the par 5s, I don't see any gimmies. And I'm a big fan of par 4s. I think, no, come on, dude. You're going to bring out a fucking power 5 ball and you're going to set it up that fast? Okay. Take a little time. They hit it perfect. El Perfecto. It didn't seem to me that they could clear it if there was no wind, but the wind was blowing to the right, and they didn't give themselves any room on the right. They didn't say, hey, I can make it, and then work the wind out and then take the shot. Now the thing about it is you can look at my second bounce is on this kind of an arc. So if I put the curl on it to try and bring me out into here, I'm going to end up clipping the rough right here, and I could get caught up in the rough. So the way to fix that would be to put on more topspin to lengthen that bounce out so that you got a little bit more room, but then you might run out of real estate. And I snapped that shot off just to demo. There we go. See, that's what I'm talking about. So if you could try and get greedy to get farther up in there, but I'm not sure that being greedy is really going to help you. And it was nice to Playdemic to put signs right out there. I have a message to Playdemic. You guys need to quit dicking around and put signs all the way around the course. Like literally a foot in on the rough all the way around the course, so that when we're out on the course, it's like a racetrack, and anywhere we look, we can see billboards. Because the only people you're selling the stuff that, if you could sell those signs, which obviously you can't because I see Golf Clash on all of them. So we know that we can recover from there, but the question is, what does this shot look like? And we know we're in long iron because we could make that shot with our Nirvana. I don't think we need to get as greedy as I was trying to get out there, as just hitting it straight out into that area, and you're going to have a long iron shot straight to the cup. And if you look at the terrain out here, as far as like if you're over on this side trying to come in, you've got a lot of movement on the course, whereas here we've got a pretty straight up shot. And I think we were thinking that, like, hey, you could do, you know, from that area, you could do a rough bump. Yeah, there's Max. I'm going to just do a max pull 3.8. There's 3, 8. Hitting it perfect. We'll see where it ends up. Need to pull a little more. I think drive shot though. Just getting over to that other side, we got plenty of club. So hitting a straight line, looking at like this is our target area, and then coming forward as opposed to trying to pick up a lot. Now you could work your shot so that you can try and get a rough bump, but where your bounces were out here, because there's so much movement out on the course, your first bounce here, your second bounce here, we draw that arc. If we put curl on it, our second bounce is here, just like I did. I did max curl just to see where it would end up. I gave myself 5 rings, and then I moved it over almost a ring set. So we could put a little bit of curl on it to try and shorten up the distance and maybe bleed out into this area as opposed to just coming out in here. But I'm not sure that it's not a bad idea on a hole like this to come out and set your drive shot up where you can consistently get into this spot and hit it straight forward and don't worry about the curl and just end up right here, or, you know, up along this edge where you're in a very consistent spot, so that when you're coming to the cup from here, you can really work on this second shot because you're in the same spot every time, as opposed to trying to pick up more distance. And sometimes you clipped the rough and you bled out, and sometimes you didn't, you got out here, and sometimes you got caught in the rough, and sometimes you ended up here, and sometimes you ended up here. And so each one of these shots is going to be different. Whereas if you just hit it straight forward into this area, which is pretty easy, this shot's going to be the same every time. And that means you can really start to work on that second shot. This terrain right here is all where it's going down, and so there's a lot of movement here. So if you're trying to come at it from this direction, if you pull your shot back to try and run it up, you're going to get involved in this hill. Whereas over here you got a pretty flat area and you can try and run it up to it. Some options. I think hitting it straight forward is probably the way to go. You're going to get a very consistent shot for the second one. If you start making that, or if you make it the first time, once again, really important to record your own video, you can go back and look at it and really see what you did and try and nail that shot down. All right, getting up into here is the deal. If you bring out a big enough ball, you can do a rough bump through this where you get bounce number 1, bounce number 2 is in the rough, and then it bleeds out and then you end up right here. And you have a rough bump on the other end where you can really go at the hole. And it seemed to me we were doing like plus 10. Tommy's got it at plus 10. You can hit down here. I'm not sure if you brought out the right stuff, if you brought out something really big and you really tried to go for it, I don't know that getting over here. You got a lot of stuff down here at the end of your run where your ball doesn't have a lot left on it. And you're trying to get the smaller bounces to clear this area. And I'm not sure, somebody out there would go, no, I've made that. I've ended up over here. But, 100 people take that shot and one person gets lucky and gets over there. I think from the Pro Tees you can't get over here, so you're hitting here, and what you're doing is you're going from the Pro Tees coming here and you're trying to curl it over into this area. With an APOC, if it has all of its curl, I think I was leaving myself 3 or 4 rings in here, so I was going off in this, more in this direction. I left myself enough room here for my curl to become effective so that when I did my max curl, it went through this area and didn't get caught up over here in the rough. I like to set these types of shot ups. I call them blind curl shots. You're trying to get it to go over in this direction, and you're trying to run through this lane. You got to watch out if you hit it to the right a little more, you run out of fairway sooner. So you're trying to get down here to the tip, and if you hit it to the right, you're going to run out of fairway right in here and end up in the rough. I mean, not that you can't make that or recover from it, but we really want to be on the fairway here. That when you're doing these lanes, you really need to give yourself some room out here for your curl to become effective, and telling somebody, hey, do half curl. If you don't have a grid, or like on mine, I could go, hey, I'm going to pull out to the red line, to the red curl line, or I'm going to pull out to the black curl line. If you don't have that, setting the shot up where you're doing max curl makes it a little more consistent, because then you're working here. So if you do max curl and you end up in this, then you need to go further to the right. If you do max curl and you end up in this, you need to go further to the left and not give yourself as much room. And then you can figure it out where, hey, I need to give myself 3.5 rings of separation, work out the wind, max curl, and the ball ends up right here every time. But I think from the rookie tees, we can actually get over here and go straight at it where we're getting bounce number 1, bounce number 2, rough bumping out. I believe that is the case. And I'm not sure if I can get the rough bump done with my Goliath, or excuse me, with my Grizzly, or if I have to bring out a Goliath. I'm going to bring the Goliath because I really want to look at that rough bump. We'll see how much topspin I put on, and that'll tell us. Practice the South Sands. I didn't realize Waterfield was in the south, but I have no idea where Waterfield's at, so it could be. See what we can get done on the drive. If I can get an opponent. It's a big if. Big. Tacos of beer. John goes first. And you can see my opponent can get there with a white ball. So we might be able to get over that sand if we brought out a big enough ball. Maybe. You'd really have to get your bounces right. Let's see what we can do with a 3 power ball. I may lower it down because what I'm thinking about is the second shot, not necessarily the first shot. So, like, yes, like you can do that with that, but where does that put you on the second shot? You can see where my second bounce is. So if I overpowered it fully, I'm in the rough, leaving the wind in, and I'm still going to end up in the rough. I'm going to bring a katana. .5 divided by 1.3, 3.8 rings. Hitting it perfect. Perfecto. I added 10% on that. Uh-oh. Should have added more. I missed the rough on the second bounce. Big time. Like it wasn't even close. As far as it rolled out right there, you'd think, wow, well shit, man, getting over to the other side over here should be pretty easy. One of the things I like about a Saturn is that Saturn is a great club. For those of you that are still using a Saturn, Saturn is a great club. It's got top spin, back spin, curl. It's got lots of good stuff, lots of good tools. Finally came to a stop. Maybe. Now we know that we can try and recover from there. I'm not sure if I can do the rough bump from there, but we know that we can recover. So the goal is to get right here so that we can actually try and do the rough bump. So let's see what that looks like. Perfecto. Let's see if we can get the last one in the hole. 1.1 times. There's max. There's min. Some eking min. .7. It's 2.2, 2.8. That's 6. That's 3. It's 2.5. I'm splitting the difference between min and minimum, or mid and minimum. It's 1.18 rings. Hitting it perfect. I was kind of in between clubs right there. Ooh! Just a slight overpull. So that club hits 1.8. I believe it's 2.2, 2.8. And so I was in between mid and minimum. So there's 6 here. Half of 6 is 3. So 2.2 plus 3 is 2.5. So I did a 2.5 pull. So I was kind of in between. Now I had a katana there. I could have brought out easily on the drive. I could have brought out from the rookie tees. I could have brought out Quasar and Navigator. I'm not sure how much spin I put on that. I have to go back once again. Why you record your own video? So the first time you go through a course, if you really wanted to practice, the first time you go through the course, you don't worry about what you're doing on the second shot. You just play around. And the whole goal is to establish, and you don't want to play it fast. You want to, if you time out, it doesn't matter. You don't care. Your whole goal is to establish what clubs you need from the tee box to get you out into this area. So what am I going to need here? I'm going to, as far as ball goes, the Katana was probably a little bit too much ball. Looking at the end, like if I wanted to pull that back, if I would have had just a 1 power ball instead of a 2 power ball, that would have, or like my opponent bringing out a 0 power ball, they were easily able to get to where they wanted with a 0 power ball. And then that's going to put you more towards mid. What would be bad is if you get here and then if you're in between, now you're in between mid max because you brought out a smaller ball, so now you're still in that mid area. But your first goal whenever you come on a course is what club and ball am I going to need to get to this area? Because if you can't get to a consistent spot where you can really start to work on that second shot, hell, we want to get to a consistent spot here. So what is that going to take? So the first time through the practice session, you're really, really focused on, especially on the par 4s and par 5s, you're really focused on what it's going to take off the tee to get to where you want to get. Then you can really start focusing on what the second shot's going to be. So when your practice round, you're looking at, hey, what does it take to get here? All right, now that I'm in the spot, and if you don't get to the spot that you're looking for, do what I did right there. Just chip it back to the spot so you can really take a look at it. Now, what club am I going to need for the second? Where does that ball put me? Do I need to change my ball? Can I change my ball? What club am I going to have? And then once you've established that stuff, now you can start going out there and going, okay, hey, we're going to focus on making sure that I get here. It's more important to get here than it is to end up in the rough and get that extra 3 inches of distance. We're in a consistent spot. Now we can start working on that second shot to really start to dial that in. All right, there you go. That was a walkthrough, a scouting report of the South Sands 9-hole Cup. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. Have a good tournament. I may or may not play. I'm not sure. I don't want to get back into the trap of Playdemic running tournaments every 5 seconds, and I'm getting caught up in the trap where I have to bow to the Golf Clash gods that have no respect for us whatsoever. They don't. See, they got these barriers right here. I would encourage Playdemic to put those barriers all the way around the course, because nobody gets online and goes, hey man, I'm going to go watch some Playdemic, watch some Golf Clash today so that I can see what signs they have out there. The only people you're advertising to are the people that play the game. And so if you're going to screw our game up, you might as well screw it up. Quit wishy-washing it. Have some conviction. Have some balls, and just put them out there. Just put them everywhere. Everywhere. That way, when you get into the perfect spot up here in the front, there is no perfect spot up here in the front. The only perfect spot is in the middle. The perfect spot's right here, because now we have this big area where we don't have to contend with signs. Thanks for watching. I'll take my tin hat off now. Have a good week. Stay safe. And I will see you on the next one.